This is Supernatural Selection on DeviantBehaviorRadio.com, hosted by Kevin the Bastard. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin the Bastard. With me this week is Mr. David Davis. David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well today. How you guys doing? Or I should say, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, we're all down here doing pretty good here in the South.
I'm talking to both of your personalities right now.
Yeah, oh, good. Okay, so you're talking to the real me and the radio host.
I just don't want any part of you to feel lonely, ever.
Thank you so much for that. I'm sure that me and Geraldine and Ernest T. were all really happy that you're thinking about us. It's been a couple of weeks since you were on, and, we had Clark back on, and we had Mike on talking about David Icke, which originally that was going to be you, but, Mike was like, oh, no, I do David Icke, goddammit.
I'm just saying you could have had two people on for that one.
You're right.
I'm just going to put that
there. We recorded it, in the middle of the week at, midnight, so it's kind of and we were drunk. This was Time Cube drunk, so...
Yeah, that would have been 2 a.m. for me. So, yeah, probably for the best.
Yeah, so... I hate that you weren't on there, but, I think we did a really solid episode, despite the fact that we were missing someone who I really wanted on that episode. So.
Aww.
Well, this week, we're going to be talking about something a little more light, a little more airy, something more ephemeral, something you can't quite put your hands on, something I can keep doing puns about for hours. Here's the thing. We've had a lot of people ask us to cover both of these subjects that are going to get brought up ever since we first mentioned the superstructure, which I realized recently we've been misnaming. It's actually the super spectrum, but I kind of like our name of the superstructure because we can copyright that.
There we go. Yeah, we put on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So, what we're tackling this week is the Fae, the wee folk, the fairies, which you never call them the fairies, so I'm already fucked. Which, if you're living in Iceland, don't play this too loud. I know that you guys, have to check for construction projects out there before, to make sure that the Hildefolk aren't...
The
Hildefolk aren't there to fuck you over. I love that they have a name and they're, taken seriously. And, 70% of the population is oh, yes, they're out there in the fields.
Watch out for the Hildefolk.
Don't trip over their houses. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that the Fae, I'm going to be calling them the wee folk, because I've been calling them the wee folk ever since I did webcomics. You know, that's just one of my things. The wee folk have always been with us. Whether it be metaphysical creatures like angels, or it's, in Native American legend, the Pukwudgie, which Clark says his friend has a picture of a Pukwudgie, and she is trying to find it for me.
Oh, that's cool.
They took a picture, and there was this red little guy looking in hey, what's going on? Like the Cheddar Goblin.
Cheddar Goblin.
I know, and I want to see that picture. So,
yeah. But
the thing about it is, there are these tiny little people in every culture known to man.
Even contemporary America, because you got the Gremlins.
The Gremlins, and I read there's a story in one of Jerome Clark's books, I'm pretty sure it's Unexplained, about a kid in the 1950s got passed by a group of trooping fairies in Minnesota. Imagine you're being passed by a bunch of little gray dudes mumbling just wearing overalls. They're all 2 feet tall, just walking by you. And this kid runs home. It's Ma, I saw some things. And she's like, you're drunk because you worked at the brewery.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, like I said, the Native Americans, they've got the Pukwudgie. The Irish have the gentry or the wee folk, which is, I love the idea that you can't, you never swear at the wee folk. You call them the wee folk, the gentry, the kind people, the good people, so they don't show up and steal your milk and kill your cows and replace your babies, which we'll get to that soon.
Yes.
And, like, there are legends of these tiny creatures that live inside, it used to be called Ayers Rock, but now it's called Uluru in Australia. And, you know, the Germans have that whole legend system about them. I mean, like, if I'm not mistaken, that works, like, way into, like, all their stuff. Like, the Wagner operas and everything.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you know about these guys? Tell me about your classical knowledge of these things.
Well, I mean, from what I've seen, like, every culture seems to have some form of small supernatural being. Like, the ones that I'm most familiar with would be, like, the gnomes, leprechauns, you know, I think the one that, like, everybody would know about is the leprechaun itself.
Yeah,
like,
the leprechaun, the catshi, all the banshee, they're all basically mythical creatures of the same ilk.
And then, of course, you also have, like, the fairies themselves, like the little winged creatures, and, you know, that there's been sightings of those things, and then, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I still kind of think that may be sort of a, what's the term I'm looking for? Like a Victorian invention, and they were suiting the style of the time?
Yeah, there was, there's a lot of, like, I don't have the evidence on me, but there's a lot of evidence that a lot of that's kind of, like, made up, you know.
The Coddington Fairy photos.
Me
and Clark were talking about those. And the girls that took those photos said, yeah, we faked them, but that's because we couldn't get the fairies to come back. There's, like, one real photo in there, and it happens to be, like, the best photo.
Yeah.
But I still kind of believe that if they had taken photos of fairies, it would have been just, like, little orbs of light.
Little orbs. Well, and then, you know, in the U.S. even, you know, you have the gremlins that were kind of...
Oh, World War II was full of those guys.
And then, of course, you also have the Kentucky goblins, which, you know, I would say are possibly fae. Well, and I think that's the thing about the fae folk that I've noticed is they're kind of like a way to explain a phenomenon...
they typically
that's
are
confounding people. Like with the gremlins, you know, what's with all these mechanical errors with our airplanes? Well, the gremlins did it, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the origins. And the thing is, there's a lot of people that theorize that, like in Ireland, that the wee folk, the gentry, basically the Celtic gods diminished by the coming of Christianity, which I guess it makes sense in a way because it's still... it's basically gods. You're looking for reasons for things happening, and gods were one of those things. Like Hampton Yount said, you know, the monotheistic faith it kind of works because, like, you don't have to question, well, what kind of god would allow war? Well, the god of war would do that. So it makes sense.
Right.
It's interesting how every culture seems to have these little guys.
Yeah, and they serve a very distinct purpose, and then even after that kind of purpose is done, they've kind of stuck around with us in our culture and our myth and our lore.
Absolutely. Did you know that Pontiac is actually named after a man who was haunted by a Pukwudgie?
You know, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's actually an episode of Lore, which I don't listen to it as much as I used to because there are days where I want to punch Aaron Mahnke in the face for his just sort of laid-back attitude about this stuff. But there's a really good episode of Lore about the Pukwudgie, and I highly recommend going through... Actually, just listen to the whole damn podcast. But there is an episode about the Pukwudgie that mentions the fact that the Pontiac was named after a man who was haunted by the Pukwudgie, and the town was named after him. And they're saying, well, maybe that's why Michigan is so fucked. Because of the Pukwudgie.
Oh, man.
Which, can you imagine that? That sucks.
Yeah, that does.
It really does. So, the nature of these things is something I wanted to talk about. Like, I don't think these are physical entities. Not in the traditional sense of the term.
Well, and then again, of course, that is going to lead us to that idea of the larger... we're calling it the superstructure, right? That's what we're calling it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's a superstructure and Magonia, which we'll get into that.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, Magonia is the same thing as a superstructure. It's just some stuff Jacques Vallée talked about in Passport to Magonia. We'll get into that. But I think that these things are highly susceptible to our perceptions of them and our level of society. What do you think?
I'm definitely with you on that. I think that they kind of take a collective form that is like borrowed from the universal unconscious.
Yeah, they fit into archetypes in our mind like water fits into a pitcher.
It just happens to be a little tiny gnome-shaped pitcher.
Yes, or other shapes,
Yeah.
as we'll come to later, because, oh shit, we're going to cover that. So, let's talk a little bit. Let's finally get into the idea of the superstructure, shall we?
Let's do it.
I'm excited. Like, as we've discussed it, you know what I'm talking about when I say the superstructure.
I do.
Like, out of all the hosts on this show, you're the one person that when I say superstructure, you're like, yeah, totally, I get you. So, like, what do you understand about the superstructure? Because asking another person what they understand about the superstructure is like, well, what do you think?
Right. Well, and, I'm not an expert, so...
oh, God, no. We're professional amateurs on this show.
So, my understanding of it is the idea that different forms or planes of existence work at different levels of energy, and there can be spillover between these different planes. And depending on which universe or wherever you're at, as that stuff spills in, it shapes based on... Your perception shapes how it appears. So, like, everything from, like, UFOs to Puckwudgies and Spring-Heeled Jack, all of that stuff, that's just the mind trying to interpret these energies that come from a different plane, usually like a higher plane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically another world laying down on top of ours and intersecting for a brief time, which leads to what they term high strangeness, which is one of my favorite phrases in all of human history, which is where, as I think Henry said it on an episode of Last Podcast on the Left, you get this Looney Tunes sort of physics and logic going on, where physics doesn't work quite like it does. Everything's more malleable. You have aliens that can pass through solid objects, and the wee folk doing strange things.
A great example of that is during the Kentucky Goblins episode, we had talked about like them shooting the buckshot at these things, and then just kind of like doing a little flip, like it pinged off of them, like boop, 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 that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, they totally turn into Daffy Duck bouncing around going, woo, 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 woo.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that, but it's also kind of terrifying in the fact that, you're used to reality being what it is, and then suddenly this whole other universe just lays on top of your farm, and you're suddenly subjected to Chuck Jones logic.
Right. Seeing Looney Tunes stuff on the screen doesn't bother you because of that level of artifice, but like when you see it in person, it's going to totally wreck your reality.
Oh yeah, no, you're mentally fucked when you see that, because that's not how things work.
Like, it's like, an anvil hovering in the air in the cartoon. It's like, okay, yeah, but then, like, you see an anvil hovering in real life, and you're like, this is very wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's another universe intruding into yours, and the physics just don't mesh well. And you're not mentally equipped to deal with that. So, being as we talked about the fact that they, let's see, I've got down here, we talked about high strangeness as a symptom of touching the unknown.
Remember, if you're going to be touching the unknown, do it with consent.
You really need to wear gloves as well, because you don't know what you're going to take away from it. That shit's going to be nasty as hell. Now, before we move on to, like, what I see as modern fairy, which you don't see a lot of talk about fairies in the modern world, not in a realistic sense. It's always like somebody posting on Reddit, oh my god, I saw a fairy, and they were talking to Naruto, and it's people making things up so they can talk about things to other people.
Right.
You don't get that a lot anymore. And I don't believe you're going to get a lot of the old school fairy stuff. Like, one of the things, I can't remember a modern instance of a changeling. Now, for those that don't know, changelings are an interesting concept where the fairy will come and steal an infant and take it back to Magonia and let it live with him until it dies, you know?
Well, and it's also the origin of the idea of like a changeling, which is a child that has been taken and raised by someone else.
Exactly.
So again, it's that idea of this concept that is being represented by this mythical or mysterious entity, but it's meant to kind of explain a normal phenomenon. Because there's probably a bunch of children being taken, back in Ireland, because like maybe the church was doing
died.
Yeah.
I want another baby.
Yeah.
I mean, and that happens. That happens. There's plenty of true crime stuff about baby thefts.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite horror movies is about a changeling scenario. It's called The Changeling, but it's that idea of like taking children, which is like this fundamentally like horrific idea, but it's so incredibly common that like people...
And it's so personal.
Yeah, and that's why I guess, people kind of turn to the supernatural in that case, because they can't comprehend someone just jacking a baby.
Sorry, I'm just picturing somebody like hot wiring a baby and driving off on it now.
They have the baby under a low jack in the crib.
They've got the club on its arms. But yeah, the changeling, the idea is that the wee folk would come and steal your baby, like a dingo.
Steal your baby.
I'm gonna steal your baby. And then they leave, and it's I don't know why it's always an old man fairy. It's never a young fairy. It's always like an old man fairy, because the replaced child is always frail and fragile and weak and weird, which just sounds to me like we need some explanation for why this kid's a nerd.
Or also like it's a way to kind of comprehend childhood illness, especially like hereditary conditions. That sort of thing happens where they can't explain, why is this child born without a foot?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all basically, I can't deal with this baby being jacked up out of my womb, so it's obviously a fairy. Which is terrible. I mean, but, that's how things were. So, there were a lot of ways to get your baby back. And it typically involved...
Baby back. Sorry.
Did I ever tell you about the restaurant here in town? There was an abortion clinic, and I realize this is like some taboo stuff, but like I'm just saying, in my town there was an abortion clinic near my house, and they went out of business like they do in the South, and they opened a restaurant in the abortion clinic. And the very first week, the sign outside advertised baby back ribs. Guess how long they stayed in business?
Oh, that's so wonderfully dark. I love it.
It is the worst idea anyone ever had, and I am in love with it. So
I'm going to have to steal that for one of my comics.
Please do, because I'm not doing anything with it. Please have the abortion clinic selling baby back ribs. So, anyway, the point is, what was the point?
We were talking about how babies were getting stolen.
Yeah, babies getting jacked, and it's always a frail old man baby, and they come up with a way to bring the child back. I'm saying it like that so we don't get in another friggin' side quest with baby back ribs. But was always confusing the fairy in the crib. Are you familiar with this? It was always like, well, what you do is you make a broth and you make a pinhole in an egg and you pour the broth in the egg and you cook the egg. And the baby will be like, well, shit, I never seen anything like that. And you'll be like, well, bring me my baby back. It's like, crap, I've been found out.
Yeah, it's like very, very lame Mr. Mixel-Spittick. From Superman.
Yeah.
Mixel-Spittick or Mixel-Spick.
Gilbert Gottfried said it was Mixia-Spitlick, which is even harder to say. But
Mixia-Spitlick.
Yeah, it's the same thing, though. Yeah, it's basically you got to trick the thing into bringing your child back.
Wait, so is he a Fae?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
I mean,
and Superman is weak to magic, so...
So there you go. That's why Mxyzptlk can do all that crap to him, is because he's a Fae.
There you go.
So there you go. Screw you, DC Comics, and any sort of explanation to the contrary of what Mxyzptlk is. So let's talk about modern Fae stuff for a few, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. So, like, what would you consider modern fairy encounters?
So definitely the Kentucky Goblins, for sure.
Oh, God, yes.
I think that's a textbook case of, like, what a modern Fae would be. But if we were to go any more recent, I would say maybe the Men in Black.
I really agree with that. I think that they are a massive part of Mangonia, however you want to say it. They're definitely fitting the modern idea of sinister men in suits. And I also think that's just been a general thing in people's minds for a long time. I mean, everyone's scared of a dude dressed all in black.
But wait, I heard that everybody loves a sharp-dressed man.
They do, but, I mean, my mom was terrified of Johnny Cash.
Oh, shit, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, look at him. Fantastic musician, but he looks like a fucking troll wearing all black.
Ooh.
Yeah. Fantastic musician, though.
Yeah.
But, nonetheless, I think that you're right on that. I think the Men in Black are, if not Fae, they're Fae adjacent. Which now, I have a feeling like our show could like launch a whole bunch of hashtags.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, but here's a question. So,
what
about something like I know that Slender Man is a meme, but like there's enough collective will out there that like people have reported seeing Slender Man and that sort of thing. Would Slender Man be an example of the Fae in this case?
See, that's a really good segue into the idea of recurring themes and changing nature of these guys, because there's always this one of the Fae is always like, he's hunting you, he'll find you. And the internet happened to come up with an idea that really fits that perfectly. So I don't see why the collective will of humanity wouldn't pull this thing back out of the collective unconscious with a new mask on. So yeah, I think that, yes, it's made up on something awful. Like I may have said this on an episode, I was taking part in that thread.
Yeah.
That created Slender Man. And yeah, I know it's fake. I know they made it on something awful. I know those two girls were full of shit. But that doesn't mean that something isn't using the idea of Slender Man as we've created it.
Right. Well, and the other thing is that the Slender Man itself is like an extension of that idea of the Man in Black, because it's a faceless entity in a suit. So it's just, again, the kind of idea reshaping itself, but with the power of the internet, we're like more aware of this stuff.
Yeah, and it creeps on children.
Yes, which is another huge anxiety.
Yeah, no.
Well, and then, of course, that whole issue with the Fae and kidnapping kids. So, like, all this stuff, I feel like Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the little board on the wall, Pepe Sylvia. There is no Pepe Sylvia.
Yeah. No, it's totally... Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, like, and one of the things I was saying is recurring themes and similarities between these things. All of these things always have, like, this whole, come with me to my fair land. And then, like, if you come back, it's later. You've either learned a lesson or it's, like, 30 years later and everything's fucked.
It seems to me like it's also an explanation of, like, it could also be an explanation for, like, dissociative personality issues or really, really good drug trips.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, like, I can only imagine how many things... Turns out they found some really kick-ass shrooms under a cow pat, and they were just hungry, and then they went off on an adventure because, let's face it, nobody finds a mushroom and thinks, how many grams is this?
Yeah. Back then, they didn't think about that. It was just like, okay, I'll just eat the whole mushroom.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Oh, shit, there's a little dude talking to me.
And I can hear the color green. Jesus Christ, yeah. and here's Jesus Christ, my God. So, let's move on to, now we were talking about modern Fae, and it would be really remiss of me to say that I didn't think aliens were Fae. I have really, really, like, thanks to Mike talking about science and, like, how difficult faster than light travel is, and, like, the idea of having to use wormholes or what have you, or quantum tunneling, it makes more sense if they're not extraterrestrials, but a term that Jacques Vallée used, and I believe, oh my God, I can't remember his name, the famous scientist that I love so much, started as a skeptic, became a believer.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, I just lost it as well.
Project Blue Book guy.
Yep.
My brain, what the fuck?
Oh, all right, to Google.
Yes, to Google, because holy shit, I cannot believe I forget this motherfucker's name.
There's just so many names to take, to keep track of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're talking about such a broad subject.
J. Allen Hynek.
Thank you, Jesus Christ. And they all have, like,
they all sound like serial killer names, too.
I'd hate to see who J. Allen Hynek killed. Oh my God, the number of friggin' short hookers this man has buried under his house.
The correct term is short sex workers.
Okay, diminutive sex workers. All right, there we go. We're all good now. So, yeah, J. Allen Hynek, like, he used this fantastic term for these things because all of them started to think, well, maybe they're not from another planet because that's ridiculous. What if this is all involved in the superspectrum, or as we've been calling it, the superstructure, ultra-terrestrials, creatures from another dimension. And they have a purpose here, which they've got this idea that, like, there's some higher purpose, like they're trying to teach us something. I got another idea, and we'll get into that later. And I'm curious if you have an idea about this as well. But
go ahead and continue.
Go ahead. No, okay. You go ahead,
so,
please.
There's a book that I absolutely love by Dr. Michio Kaku. I think it's called Hyperspace, where he talks about, like...
Is this a guy on the Discovery Channel and History Channel?
I was Facebook friends with him. It was fun. The guy. But he, cool. In his book, he talks about, like, dimensions, right? You know, you have the second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, so on and so forth. And the idea is that, like, if we're in the third dimension, something from the fourth dimension coming into our area would freak us out. But then you also think, like, what would a person on a second dimension... how would they interact, or how would they react to someone from our dimension coming to their area? So the idea is that it's just these kind of, like, dimensional exploration, basically. Is
protrusions, basically, into our reality. Like, the description of a third-dimensional thing intersecting a second-dimensional plane is always like, well, it starts out as a dot, and it gets bigger and then shrinks as it passes through that 2D plane.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, what he talked about in the book. It's a wonderful book. Amazing book. So if anyone wants a book to read that involves, like, theoretical physics and the idea of, like, dimensions and time and space, that's a fantastic book.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, everybody stop the podcast, go buy that book.
There you go.
Okay, now you're back. Great. Now that you've read that and you're smarter than me, let's let's talk about aliens for a little bit, because I seriously, the similarities between the UFO abduction experience and the Fae through history is so friggin' similar. There's always, like, a taken aspect, which has been interpreted as, like, the hero's journey in literature, where
there's always a light show.
You go to the next world, you gain information, you come back, you're alienated. I mean, it's the same thing. And then there's the sex thing.
Oh boy, we're going there.
Oh, we're going to go there. We're not going to go there in depth because we're doing a crossover with Key Party about this.
Just make sure that you wear protection and stay hydrated.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, in ye olden times, people would head over to Magonia through like a fairy ring, which, did you know in the 1950s there were saucer rings? You would find like rings where flying saucers had landed.
Well, that's also kind of an extension of, well, I know that a lot of the crop circles are obviously faked, but that's also, a crop circle was kind of an extension of that idea of the fairy ring then, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Like the ones that, here's the thing, the super complex crop circles, completely fake. I believe those are fake. The simple ones no one pays attention to, that might be real. That could be a fairy ring. That could be a UFO ring. I don't know. Saucer nests.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them from the old literature, it's the same thing as a fairy ring and fairy paths and all these things. They all sort of line up, because there's America's UFO Highway, which I want to say is like the 34th parallel.
Which would be a fun episode to do, is just like, let's travel down the highway.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's a fairy path, basically. It's a ley line. So it lines up in that sense, but like somebody would get picked up in ye olden times, like I said, and taken to Magonia through a fairy ring or following a fairy path, and they would meet a beautiful fairy woman.
All right, I'm on board so far.
All right, yeah. So if they could not resist, she nails the shit out of them.
Ooh, boy.
And then gets sent home. And sometimes it's been 30 years, sometimes it's been a week, whatever. But you get home, everybody's like, where were you? I was nailing fairy chicks.
Oh, man, that's our next t-shirt. I'd rather be nailing fairy chicks.
Oh, my God, that would be great.
Make it a hat.
Exactly. No, yeah, I'd rather be nailing fairy chicks.
I'd rather nail the fae. There you go.
Yeah, that's our women love me, fish fear me hat. So, what do you get these days? You get guys stuck on mechanical bowls, basically, that pump your semen.
Or does stuff to the butt. So, I guess, why... Back in those fae encounters, was there a lot of butt stuff going on? Or is that more of a modern thing?
It depends. I'm sure there was enough butt stuff, but everybody got back as like, oh, did you have sex with a...
Everybody's a little shy about it.
Yeah. Did you have sex with a fairy maiden? Maiden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not a big strapping dude.
Definitely not a minotaur.
Yeah. Certainly not a centaur.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Just some poor peasant in the woods getting railed by a centaur.
Can you believe...
Just high off his ass.
Can you believe they let us do this show?
Oh, we'll see about that.
Yeah, after this one, there may be questions. But the point is, there's a sexual nature in both of these things. And I really, really believe that all it is a modern interpretation, because the technology's advanced, what we understand has advanced, our culture has advanced, and we're also real fucking cynical.
Right. Well, and then also, like, we'll probably have to do a crossover episode with Key Party to talk about, like, the energy involved in sexuality. And
yes.
The act of sex or sexuality, like, you can call it Orgon energy, call it whatever you want. There is definitely, like, some sort of energy exchanged in that. So that's, like, an entire topic on its own. But when you talk about these incidences with sex with the fae or whatever it is, there's definitely, it would be like an emotional experience full of a lot of energy. Like,
absolutely.
Smarter people than me, probably more mature people than me, probably could say a lot more about that. But, like, there's just something there.
Well, you know what? It's just us right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, I can imagine after having sex with either an alien hybrid or a fairy woman, you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah, probably.
You're going to be which also leans back into the idea of the succubus or the incubus. Because those are also fae creatures, and they drain specifically sexual energy or life force through the act of sex.
Yep.
Which is kind of a way cooler version of a vampire, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's the type of vampire I'd like to meet.
If something's crawling in my window, I'd rather that. I'm just saying.
Oh, and also I'd like to give a serious message here to everybody who's listening. If after you've listened to this episode you have an erection lasting more than 4 hours, please consult a physician.
Oh, God, please do. Because it's two guys talking here, and quite frankly, I don't think either of us should be giving you an erection.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty confident about myself.
I'm not. I just posted a picture of myself on Twitter, and if you are even remotely attracted to me, you need medication.
It is a great picture, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
Like, that should be your profile picture for the show. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Still, I firmly believe that aliens are basically the modern concept of the Fae, just adapting itself to what we are.
You know, and that makes a ton of sense. Again, it's that idea of the Fae adapting to the times. Like, people are more likely to believe in aliens than they are to believe in, you know, Heer de Folk.
Heer de Folk, unless you live in Iceland.
Yeah.
You know, I would actually like to know what the percentage of alien abduction versus Hildefolk encounters is in Iceland.
Yeah, that would be
interesting.
interesting.
The rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because, like, here in the U.S., it's just alien. And over there, it's just an elf stole my hammer. Which, you know, given the idea of being taken up in a ship and fondled versus somebody stole my hammer, I guess I'll take the hammer.
Either way, you get fucked.
You're fucked one way or the other, indeed. Have you got any theories, personal theories about the Fae?
Like, I don't know if I'm a believer in them. I absolutely find them absolutely fascinating, and it's interesting that, like, over the years that, like, these theories have developed that kind of, like, link them to other phenomenon, and then there's, like, this common there's that idea of the way that all these things connect. Like, as far as, like, what I think they are, I am definitely in the camp that they are kind of our brain's manifestation of anomalies or energies we're just not capable of understanding.
Awesome. I totally get that. Yeah. That is a fantastic theory. Mine is a bit more sinister.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
It's spicy.
We're going to go there. It's spicy and it's weird. So it's like the worst kind of wasabi.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Sexual wasabi.
Oh, God, no. Great name for a band, but no.
That really is. If you want to... Look, if you want to start a band called Sexual Wasabi, as long as you credit me in the liner notes, go for it. Yep. I don't care. My theory, and this is kind of an oddball one, is that I kind of feel like maybe the Fae and the superstructure itself, Magonia, the entire concept, I feel like maybe it's a parasitic conjoined twin. To our reality. Like, it's been there since the beginning, and the only reason they can access it is because we exist.
So it's kind of like a planar Nibiru, basically?
A bit. If Nibiru had, like, a learning disability, I guess.
No.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
It's, because, like, it's just so dumb. It's not like, you know, we're gonna end you. It's like, I'm gonna stick something up your butt and make you come. is all they can manage. I'm gonna steal your baby and leave grandpa. As you know, as a culture, it's kind of dumb. But I just feel like they've been there the entire time as an offshoot of our existence. And maybe, just maybe, this whole theory about the alien hybrid program is just them trying to merge with us.
Yeah.
Like, to make one species, finally, you know? Like, if your conjoined twin could, like, reabsorb itself.
Oh, man.
Like, maybe our reality pushed something out.
So it's basically Malignant, then.
Kinda. Kinda, but also, maybe we need it. To perceive the things. Like, you know, there's always, like, you know, in the old days, it's like legends like, oh, he's the son of a man and a fairy, and he can see things that aren't there. Well, maybe we're supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it like, you know, like the movie Malignant. Which I saw that a couple weeks ago, and holy shit!
I love it.
It is so stupid, and I love it.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. But the point is, I'm thinking that, like, we were supposed to be one whole entity, and somehow it just didn't work.
Right.
Like, if this were a movie, maybe it's the Super Mario Brothers movie.
The parallel that I would think of is, do you remember Hellboy 2 with the troll market?
Yes.
That's how I'm kind of like seeing all this, is that like it's one reality overlaid on another, but like I just want an excuse to mention Hellboy 2.
Okay, sure. No, I totally get that. And I just wanted an excuse to kind of put in there that maybe the Fae are ruled by Dennis Hopper.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah. But I just really like the idea that this is a conjoined twin for our whole universe, and maybe we're supposed to join. Maybe it's meant to be. Maybe we shouldn't fight the breeding program.
Oh, they're going to make us breed over and over again. Better get used to it.
Death by snoo.
Now, this theory is like super interesting. Now, are you developing it from? I don't want to say scratch because you're taking influence from a bunch of stuff, but or is there an author who's kind of seeded this for you?
I can't think of anyone offhand. I'm sure there's been some kind of science fiction movie or something, where they talk about this, but I kind of feel like this is my thing,
There you go. No, I like it. It's fun.
Because, and I feel like maybe old-time shamans and medicine men and whatnot that had access to, a broader range of the universe, that could see things that weren't there, that could affect healing from, a spiritual source. Maybe they had more access. And I'm not saying you should run out and take ayahuasca.
Well, I'm going to say that you should.
Okay, well, that's fair, but I am saying that, maybe you should unlock certain parts of your brain.
Yeah. Well, and, that whole thing, it sounds really cool because then it's what if everybody has their kind of Fae equivalent? And it's just the shaman is able to get in touch with their Fae equivalent, and our encounters are us encountering our equivalent without really understanding it.
See, I really love that idea that you're in touch with yourself on the other plane.
Make
and
a fun movie.
If that's the case, oh God, yes.
Yeah.
I just really kind of feel bad for Faye Kevin. Or actually, I don't feel bad for Faye Kevin. That's got to be the most amazing, handsome motherfucker in the world.
Faye Kevin is doing a podcast about humans. They exist.
I tell you, these horrible troll-like beings exist.
These hairless apes.
And this motherfucker just looks like fucking Legolas. And I'm over here looking like Gimli on crack. But yeah, you see what I'm saying, though?
No,
I think
I do.
Maybe we shouldn't be afraid of this.
And I think with, Fae and alien encounters, even though, it can be kind of weird and scary, I think the overall feeling is wonderment.
Yeah, because there's so many experiences where people come out of it and they're going I was really scared and it was weird, but in the end it was kind of a positive thing. It sort of changed my life. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's just, it's heartwarming in a weird way.
It is. It is, because, admittedly, when you have an alien abduction experience, you become what I like to call terminally groovy. In that you're probably going to go into, a weird Afrocentric phase wearing a dashiki.
And
even though
you're probably going to buy, crystals, and, you're going to know the people at the crystal store.
You're going to know a lot about Tempe, Arizona. But I think that maybe we should all know a little bit about Tempe. At least a little bit. I mean, it'll make me feel better anyway. So yeah, I think that's our episode on the Fae.
Yeah, it's a little brief, compared to some of our other episodes, but I think we've covered quite a bit.
We really have. There's there's so much tied into it, and eventually what we'll do is we'll go back into some of these other individual subjects from this episode, and we will do individual episodes of those.
Yeah.
But we got the groundwork down for them.
Yeah, it's a good overview of like the various idiosyncrasies of the subject.
Yeah, and eventually we're going to go back, we're going to do like an episode about changelings.
The Heal
We're
the
going to
Folk.
do the Heal the Folk and what have you, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We've got some questions from listeners.
Ooh.
And I'm excited about that, and I'm only going to do a couple because the others, I know Mike will want to handle.
No, he took my Ike episode. We're not doing that.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, all right. Jason Lord, who is a friend of mine, asked, where do superheroes go on their vacation?
This sounds like a joke.
It probably is, but I'm just going to go Themyscira.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on
Obviously.
the universe, obviously.
Sure. Well, if I was in Marvel, I would build I'd go to Reed Richards and I'd be like, send me to the island of hot women.
Right. Send me to the negative zone.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of superheroes, their idea of a vacation is probably literally just turning off the cell phone and then just crashing in their house for like a couple of days.
Oh, dude, Wakanda.
Yeah, that's fair too.
I go to Wakanda. Thriving nightlife. You can go out in the wilderness. Probably waterfalls and shit.
I heard that heart-shaped herb is incredible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, and Clark Wayne,
Uh-oh.
our boss fella, had a fun question. And here's the thing. You probably know about this. He says, what if Bigfoot is just a Wookiee from Kishik that got sucked into our timeline?
There was actually a Star Wars comic.
I am so glad
Yeah.
you know about that, because
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so
That's a one-
Han and Chewie crash land on Earth. And then...
Well, you don't know it's Earth at first. It's
Yeah.
just primitive natives there, and Han gets shot by arrows, and Chewie, like, puts him back in the Millennium Falcon and runs off into the forest. And who discovers that ship, David?
Indiana Jones and Short Round.
Man, look. As funny as it was, it made me go, we need Short Round back.
Yeah, I told you about that idea I had for a sequel for Indiana Jones with Short Round, right? Where he kind of takes on the mantle.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, it was a whole fun thing, and it was tying to like the 1960s and all that.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great, man. I would love that. Short Round is such an underused character.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, that's a couple of questions there. And actually, I'm going to do one more that I said I was going to save for Mike, but...
A peace offering, it seems.
Yes. Let's go with this. Let's see. Questions for the show. This question is from Kick-Assatron.
Yeah.
Who is a friend from the Dave Ross community, which if you're not listening to the podcast, What's It Called, where they rename something every week, it's a great show. They take fan submissions, and this month is Bill Maher month. So they're renaming everything involving Bill Maher, including Real Time with Bill Maher, which I called Shitty White Guy Can't Get Canceled. But Kick-Assatron had a great question. Do the Ninja Turtles count as cryptids?
Yes.
I agree. Mike was like, no, because nobody believes in them. I'm like, but in the universe of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, yeah, those are fucking cryptids.
Oh, yeah. You know that, like, the Weekly World News over in Ninja Turtle universe is, like, more signs of the lizard ninjas.
Yeah. Oh, God,
They're
yes.
never referring to them as turtles, just calling them the lizard ninjas. Or the frog ninjas.
Or the lizard shogun or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think they count as cryptids. And, I mean, like, you imagine having, like, say you're in North Carolina, 1988, 89, when they're filming the first movie, and they're using those Jim Henson Creature Shop suits.
Yeah.
And, like, you catch sight of one of those motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. I'd lose my shit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but here's a question. So if we're talking about like people interpreting like creatures like that in unusual locations, there's always that like legend or that joke about alligators in the sewers of New York. Are those cryptids?
Sure. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they're complete. Cryptid is basically, cryptozoology means hidden animal.
Yep. So you got the Manhattan shit gator.
The Manhattan shit gator, and there's actually this one I love, the Minnesota kangaroos.
Okay, I've never heard of them.
Yeah, it's again, citing my reference here from Unexplained, is something Jerome Clark brought up. It's something where every now and again you'll see kangaroos in Minnesota, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" I mean, the obvious answer is, circus. Yeah, but shit, man.
Right.
It's been 70 years now. They're still there.
It's just a breeding population of kangaroos somewhere in Minnesota.
That's just weird. I mean, it's cool, but it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our questions, and a little bit of a side note. Our Patreon, which, as I said, my friend, did I do the shout out at the beginning of the show?
No.
Shit. Okay, well, guys, big announcement. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/supernatural selection. We have 3 tiers. Friends of Enrique, which is $5. You get access to episodes a day or two early, and you get a shout out here on the show, which we have our first patron, Mr. David Holyfield, a longtime friend of the show. Fantastic dude. He's been supporting my projects for years. Thank you, David. You are awesome. You are currently, until we get a $20 patron, you are Lord High God of the patrons.
Technically, you own the podcast now.
You technically own the podcast because you have put more money into it than anyone.
Even us.
So you own the podcast, David Holyfield. You're the man. So our tiers are Friends of Enrique, which is $5. You get a shout out on the show like David just did, and you get access to the episodes a day or two early as soon as I can get them edited and uploaded. That's even before they go up on deviantbehaviorradio.com. Also, the second tier is called the Hot Dog Squad. And on the Hot Dog Squad, you get bonus Patreon episodes, which I'm going to be recording a little later today, and I'm going to be talking about Jerome Clark.
Author of Unexplained.
Unexplained! Because this guy, he's got a really interesting life, man. I mean, like, he's worked with Jacques Vallée, John Keel. He's a noted author. He's a country music songwriter.
Huh.
That's a thing I never thought I'd say in conjunction with any of those others.
Is it good stuff?
I guess. I think he wrote for, like, Merle Haggard and shit. I'm going to have to double check, but, like, yeah. I mean, like, you know, serious creative writing chops for songs.
So we could literally probably have a Jerome Clark playlist on Deviant Behavior Radio.
Oh, shit. I would love that, man. Totally got to do that. So, yeah, you get early episodes, shout-outs, and bonus stuff like that. And then the last tier is called Capitalism Unbound. We have merch. You can get mugs, shirts, tote bags, and hoodies. If you subscribe for 1 year, every 3 months, you get new merch for a year.
Quarterly merch.
Yes, awesome stuff. It's basically a gimme shit subscription plan. So I highly recommend checking that out. So if you want to find that, again, it's patreon.com/supernatural selection, or you can click the link on our new URL, supernatpod.rocks.
Interesting.
Can you believe that was available? All I had to do was go into the geology section of the drop-down.
That's perfect.
I know.
Now we just need hollow earth rocks.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. Okay, I'll let you get that one. You can direct it wherever you want. You can send it to your websites, which, speaking of, being my amazing co-host, David, once again, thank you for being on the show. Please tell these wonderful people where they can find you online.
Best place to find me online would probably be on my Twitter, which would be at HPKOMIC. That's at HPComic. I have a link to all the stuff that I do on Twitter constantly. Got a couple comics you can read. I have the radio show here on Deviant Behavior Radio called the Mutant Hours. Took a break this week.
Fantastic show.
But we're coming back next week with some fun. Thinking about doing an anime special, which should be a lot of fun too. So.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and be sure to also check out his other comic, RG Bots, which has gotten its first hate tweet.
I was so happy about that.
I swear to God. And where can they find RG Bots? What's the Twitter handle?
That would be at RGBOTS Comics. So RG Bots Comics.
As much as I love Cosmic Dash, I cannot tell you how much I love RG Bots. It is just so fucking hardcore dark humor, which is what I love.
Well, and it's great because I can write new ones on the toilet, which is great.
Which, that's the best thing ever.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many episodes of this have been written on the toilet.
How many are being recorded on the toilet right now?
None.
Oh, okay.
I'm full of shit, but I will never record while taking a shit.
Well, Kevin, I have a surprise for you.
Oh my God.
You smell it?
Have we taken that step? Oh my God, I feel so special.
No, now you just have to edit in a flushing sound.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a plop. The bad thing is it's gonna sound like Alka-Seltzer.
The fizzing afterwards, that's the scary part.
David, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
It's always a blast to do this.
All right. Well, look, everybody. Remember, we love every single one of you. Agape, not Eros. And until next time, stay frosty. Bye. Supernatural Selection has been a production of DeviantBehaviorRadio.com. You can find it and more shows broadcast weekly at DeviantBehaviorRadio.com. Our theme music is Screensaver by Kevin MacLeod. It is used through Creative Commons license, and more of his music can be found at incompetech.filmmusic.io.